Look at this ship. This is the USS Abraham Lincoln. In August of 2026, it marked a record, 240 days at sea without a single port call, the longest continuous deployment in the history of the American Navy. On the inside, the human structure is failing. Leaked reports describe contaminated water, failed sanitation, and a mental health crisis so acute that sailors were physically restrained while trying to jump overboard into the Arabian Sea. Major news networks describe this deployment as a heroic stand, a display of American resolve against Iranian aggression. However, the vice president offered a different rationale on national television. He stated that these 5,000 sailors are out there to keep domestic gas prices stable before the November midterm elections. Habermas calls this a crisis of political legitimacy. When a system loses the loyalty of its frontline forces, ground down for domestic price management over national security, trust snaps. This is new generation fragging syndrome, resisting with their own bodies. A human being leaping into the dark water of the Arabian Sea is a systemic signal. It is the physical evidence of a strategy that has hollowed out its own purpose. In the Strait of Hormuz, Iran moved beyond threats and declared the waterway closed. Within 72 hours, tanker traffic plummeted by 90%, effectively seizing control of one of the world's most critical energy arteries. Iran then issued a list of demands for reopening the strait, including $300 billion in reparations. This figure indicates that Tehran has no interest in a negotiated settlement. This chart reveals the trap. Iran plays against the American electoral clock. As gas prices climb toward $5, pressure on Washington increases daily. Iran can wait, integrating into the BRICS financial system, settling trade in yuan and rupees, bypassing the American dollar entirely. American economic pressure only works if the target has no other way to move money. As the BRICS architecture matures, that leverage becomes less effective with every passing month. The maximum pressure campaign is landing on consumers at the gas pump and sailors on the Abraham Lincoln rather than the leadership in Tehran. Inside the Trump administration, two incompatible ideologies are at war. One faction prioritizes practical nationalism and border control, while religious hawks inside the cabinet treat the confrontation with Iran as a moral duty. This friction led to a public rupture. The vice president went on live television to warn Israeli leadership that the United States is finished paying for weapons to solve problems that can't be fixed with force. While this internal conflict exhausts American resources, Beijing is securing strategic gains across 5 simultaneous fronts without participating in a single day of combat. British military surveillance drones were recently discovered transmitting classified data back to China. A dormant chip embedded in the cameras was pinging a server in Beijing around the clock, even when the drones appeared inactive. In London, China secured a super embassy location directly above the fiber optic cables that carry the city's financial data. They now have physical proximity to the largest financial center in Europe. Simultaneously, China is extending its rare earth monopoly into Iranian reserves, while the American tariff war drives up the cost of allied drone manufacturing. By securing these intelligence channels, physical locations, and resource monopolies, China is positioning itself to control the technical infrastructure of the next several decades. The military reality is shifting. The United States has lost 25% of its regional Reaper drone fleet in the Iran conflict, a loss of $1.3 billion in hardware that was never designed for contested airspace. The dollar's share of global trade settlement has fallen from 52% in 2001 to 38% today. This decline marks a shift in how global power is actually exercised and enforced. This new landscape favors adversaries who fight through parallel financial networks and supply chain dominance. It is a conflict defined by economic endurance and technological control rather than traditional battle lines. To address the collapse aboard the Lincoln, the Pentagon has ordered the USS George Washington to cross the world and take its place, sending a new crew into the same tactical environment. The physical breakdown of these sailors is the cost of a multidimensional war that Washington continues to fight with an outdated map.